This is a time for justice. Welcome to today's show. One thing I always try to tell people to look for is patterns. There are no such thing as coincidences. So, do trains derail? Yeah, trains derail. We all know that those types of things happen. But what we're starting to see is a pattern here of chemical warfare. That's right, but not the type of chemical warfare you would think of where two countries were fighting for peace or whatever they could be fighting for against one another. We're actually seeing chemical warfare, it looks like, from our own government on the citizens. Now, this doesn't surprise anyone that they're using chemical agents against the people out there who live in their country, because it's pretty clear if you look at the behavior and the pattern of our current government that they hate us, that they do not have our best interest at heart, and they would like to see nothing more than our way of life ruined. Now, we just went through something, of course, where they went out of their way to get people to, poison themselves. So now what we're seeing is just another thing that can be blamed on the boogeyman. Now, you might saw my video about what happened in Ohio. I'm sure you've seen tons of other people's videos about it. You're very familiar with it. I wanted to cover what happened in Arizona because I'm starting to feel like I'm watching the original Batman movie from the 1980s, because that's really what it looks like. We had a truck flip over with nitric acid.
If you gotta go, go with a smile.
And we had to have an evacuation, and we had to have people in hazmat suits there, just like they were just in Ohio, just like there was people in hazmat suits in Houston this past week because of another train that was carrying chemicals that crashed. And of course, we had another train derail in South Carolina. So take a look at what occurred in Arizona.
In fact, it is 6:55 right now. We are following this breaking news on the southeast side, that crash that Sally was talking about. Megan Spector is live near the scene of a hazmat spill. She has the very latest on conditions right now. What can you tell us, Megan?
Well, Robbie, first, I just want to show you, I'm here right now on Colossal Cave Road, which is about 6 miles from the incident. And I want to show you the road is already getting pretty backed up with traffic. And that's just everyone trying to get around that incident that is still blocked off. Now, here is what we know, the latest from DPS. As of this morning, Unified Command has reinstated the shelter in place order for a 1 mile perimeter around the incident. According to DPS, crews were attempting to remove the load from the commercial vehicle when gassing occurred. The interstate is still closed in both directions from Houghton to Kolb. Commuters are asked to avoid this area, and residents are encouraged to once again turn off their heaters and air conditioners that bring in outside air.
News at 6, a crash on the I-10, closing both sides of that freeway east of Tucson due to a hazardous spill.
Faye is joining us now with what we know so far. Faye?
Yeah, guys, a shelter-in-place warning now in effect for anyone within a 1 mile radius of this crash, which is near the Kolb exit there off of I-10 east of Tucson. Drivers being urged to avoid this area. Brand new video coming in right now from the scene. At the time of the crash, around 3 p.m., winds topped out at 45 miles an hour. Officials say the truck flipped on its side in the median. Fire crews are on scene working to control the hazardous material. Nitric acid is a major component of fertilizer. It can also be used to make explosives. Now, according to the CDC, exposure to nitric acid can cause irritation to the eyes, the skin, the lining of the mouth, lungs, and stomach. Officials urging everyone nearby to turn off their heaters, AC units, and any other equipment that may bring in outside air. At this point, there is no estimated time for I-10 to reopen in that area. Officials are on scene deciding if the shelter-in-place warning should be expanded, and we're working to learn more. Any updates, Katie and Javier? We'll get them right out to you.
Again, it looks like it's right out of the Batman movie, where the Joker has like those balloons, remember in the original one, and it comes out of the balloons and sprays everybody, and Batman has like, this is comical at this point. Do people not see a pattern here? Can anyone remember in their lifetime stories like this? I mean, the stories are just unbelievable. And yes, a lot of these things are psyops that they constantly push in the media to get people distracted. Things like the balloon and who's China spying on us and all that stuff. Whereas we know our own government spies on us, and any of the things up there floating around will be them tracking us, because I covered it last week. I mean, we already know for a fact that our government's doing it. They admitted to doing it. So you could take that for what it's worth. But when you see patterns like this, why should anyone be surprised? I mean, just look at the behavior of our government. Look at how these people treat us as citizens. If you're especially a white Christian male, you're probably not going to be treated too well anymore in America. But is it coincidental that the town in Ohio was mainly quote unquote conservative people that this happened in? And another thing people need to realize about this story is how important the railroads are. Remember last year, at the end of the year, towards the fall, I should say, I was talking about that railroad strike that was coming. In December, it was supposed to hit. Apparently, they did something to stop it from happening because they heard people were getting mad about it. They heard people saying, hey, this is not, we have our government talking about people chopping off their private parts, and we're going to have a huge problem on the railroads. That's where we get our food and all this stuff delivered, fertilizer, et cetera. People don't think, especially, look at this world we're living in. Nobody has a clue. I'm pretty sure that some of these young teens, these libs, they think that food just appears in the grocery store from thin air. I'm pretty sure that they do. They don't think about the process. They don't think about how important the railroads are. So if people were in an uproar about what was going on the railroads, right, and they said, all right, we're going to have to come up with something else, well, then we'll just start really sabotaging the railroads. We'll derail trains all over the place. Then we'll blow them up. And then people will say, we're going to have a railroad problem. We have to redo the railroad. We'll shut the railroad down for quite a period of time. You can see something like that coming where they come out and they say, hey, there's clearly a problem in the railroads. We need to put money into the infrastructure of the railroads, so we need to slow everything down. Thus, we could just continue to tell you why there's food shortages, why nobody can grow, why you need to come to us for our soylent food, right? And then you look at the thing in Arizona, and it's like, has anyone ever heard a story like this? I mean, this is like weeks apart from one another, that multiple events have occurred where chemicals have been released into the air, and it looks like a scene out of a movie. A portion of the main freeway that runs through the southern Arizona desert and links the state's two largest cities remains closed outside of Tucson on Wednesday morning, a day after a deadly crash caused a hazardous material leak. And they reopened it, then they re-shut it down again because they were nervous because nitric acid is dangerous. It can kill people, just like the chemicals up in Ohio that I covered in the previous video can kill people. And again, what's one of the things I constantly talk about, if you've listened to my channel for a while, it's the slow death, the slow kill. If people whiff this in Ohio or in Arizona and 50 people drop dead on the ground, that'd be one thing. But what will happen is long term, this is going to be hazardous to these people's lives, right? Think about all the stuff that we've heard over the years about things like asbestos, right? And people are just like, oh, but can you really blame it on it? Oh, they didn't know what was behind the walls. It's the same kind of thing. It's the same thing we'll be dealing with the magic potion. We already know many people who have suffered from the magic potion, but many more of these people are going to be going very soon. And they're going to be saying it's something else. It's not what you think it is. It's this or it's that. And this is clearly all you need to do is look at these events, right? Look at the pattern. You see chemicals being used, right? Again, another weapon that can't be pointed at anybody because they say it's an accident. All these things, it's an accident. It's just something that happened. We're not responsible for it. And then on top of it, you have our own government who doesn't even come out and address these things. I'm sure you've heard about Pete Buttigieg. This guy's, constantly in the news talking about making railroads and all these places non-racist. I mean, just the most insane stuff that these people talk about. It's insanity. It's pure insanity what we're listening to. But they don't come out and address this. Like, there's a safety problem here. How about all the people in that town who are suffering and going to continue to suffer? How many animals died, let alone how many people will die eventually from breathing this in? Oh, no, they don't even address it. They're like, no, we're not going to address it. But happy Diversity Day. And all the suckers out there are like, yeah, that's what we should be talking about. Oh, yeah? You got a government that's rogue on its people. And this is going on around the world. These are the types of events you're going to constantly see. That's why sometimes I laugh when people talk about movies where, like, the government, obviously martial law is going to be implemented at some point, okay, in all these countries, because that's why they're trying to get rid of a police state and make it military state. But it's not going to go the way that you think it's going to go. Like, you're not going to see the president holding up a pistol and saying, all right, we've now turned on everybody. It's just going to be all these things that can never get blamed on anyone. Chemical warfare, weather manipulation, climate change, right? A mysterious virus in the air. All these things where people just go, oh, this is just life. This was never life. This stuff wasn't going on 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, over and over and over. Yeah, we had events. We had false flags. We had things like Waco, McMartin, the 11th of September, right? Event after event after event. We know all those events are obviously planned events. But now we're seeing them getting to a point where they go, hey, you know what? We're not close to that 500 million number that we want to be towards. So we're just going to have to make all these things that look like accidents occur. And we'll never address it. And we'll just deem anyone who says any of this stuff crazy conspiracy theorists, because nobody will think that there's evil, wicked people like us who literally, on the record, have constantly talked about depopulation. Gates, Ted Turner, all these rich guys, Fink, all talked about it. What do you think? They're just talking about it like under their breath and they're like, I didn't really mean that. They literally were in interviews like on 60 Minutes talking about it. Bill Clinton. Oh, okay. But they didn't mean it. People are just like, oh, they just threw that out there. Oh, did they? And all these things that have been happening over the last couple of years are all coincidental. The fact that they're telling us, on top of all these things, that we should be ready for the next outbreak and that it's right around the corner should be probably a red flag to people to maybe say, hey, why are they telling us there's going to be another outbreak? Did you hear after polio? Some of us weren't alive after polio, but was the narrative 5 years after polio? Get ready, the next one's right around the corner. People would be like, what do you mean it's right around the corner? Why are you telling us there's another one coming? Are you planning it? That's what people would say with common sense. But instead what we have is just, wow, coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. Chemicals flying through the air, our government blowing up and doing an explosion to blow these chemicals into the atmosphere and going, we didn't do anything wrong. Evacuating towns, bringing in martial law in some of these places. I mean, it's literally insanity. I think what's more insane is that we let them get away with it, to be honest. But anyone who looks at these things and is like, oh, no, it's coincidental. Trucks flip over with nitric acid and trains get, a government blows up and does a slow burn of trains that are carrying all of these dangerous chemicals that could kill with one breath, that could poison the water, et cetera, over and over and over, right? Not to mention the avian flu going on. And I just covered this on the website. If you haven't seen it, check it out on a timeforjudgment.com or another name for the website, but you get the point. And the avian flu, now it's being passed to mammals all of a sudden. Isn't that a great coincidence? So it went from a bird flu, which would mean, by definition, only birds could get the flu, to now spreading to other animals. And now they're worried it's going to spread to people. So what do they want to do? Well, they want to stick all the chickens. If they're not going to euthanize them, they'll stick them. Why? Because then when people eat the chickens, then they'll get it that way into their bodies. You see how this whole thing works? Very convenient all this stuff's happened at once. I mean, I remember like 20 years ago, you might hear about mad cow disease, recall on beef. And I'm not just saying that because I have a short memory, because I don't have a short memory. Every day it's something they're poking at us. They're doing something. Something suspicious is going on. Yet people think it's all coincidentally happening. They're not remembering that you weren't even supposed to know your government was doing anything or working. You were just supposed to be living your life. Every day, it's some massive catastrophe going on in this country and around the world. From what we just saw in Brazil with the same exact storyline as in America with the Capitol building. We have trains blowing up, releasing Joker gas. And people are like, oh, news and stuff always happens. It's just getting out there more because of Twitter and social media. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They will do this by any means necessary because they never have to take the blame. They stonewall when they're asked questions. This government doesn't answer any questions. They won't even do interviews. I mean, at what point do the people say, you know what? We demand these people are thrown out of office. They demand an impeachment. They weren't voted in the first place. And I'm not an election denier as far as a Trump support. I'm an election denier overall because the whole thing is rigged on both sides. None of these people are put in there. They're in there to sabotage our country right now and to ruin our lives and to try to take full control over our lives. That's the problem I have. If they're playing puppet, in Congress and they're just going, we're going to take money from so-and-so. I don't care what they do when it comes to that kind of stuff. Taking bribes and all that. Oh, government's always been corrupted. But now they're trying to ruin our lives. They're trying to literally cut off our food supply. They're trying to make sure farmers can't farm. They're trying to poison water. They're draining lakes. On top of all this other crap that we have to deal with the stuff they're trying to implement in schools. They're trying to come after communities' children, which really just people's children. They call them community kids. All of this stuff. They are trying to walk into your home, and it must be stopped. This isn't some government thing where it's like, oh, I don't like Democrats, let's impeach them. These people are sick, and if people out there can't see it, I don't know what to tell them at this point. I mean, I really don't. I'm trying not to rant, but it is so ridiculously over the top. There are no coincidences. And when this stuff is happening in a row, in a pattern, right? The food shortage is another perfect example, like the avian flu, like I mentioned. How many other things are there shortages of on the shelves? Yeah, of course, eggs being linked to that. What about other meats? Oh, the cattle. We're having a cattle crisis. Oh, you mean you were telling us that we need to kill cattle and all poultry and everything because of the climate? Now they're all just dying, but it's not because you're killing them. We're supposed to believe just in the history of the world, conveniently, all of a sudden, after you tell us over and over again that cow farts are killing the climate, that chicken are bad, that we need to eat things made out of a petri dish, all of a sudden, all these animals are just croaking all over the place. Fish washing up. You just poison the Ohio River with chemicals. Fish are dying all over the place. You think it's an accurate number, what they're giving you on the news? Not even close. Not even close. Not to mention what some of these fish in the Ohio River are going to be carrying. They're going to come out and be like, oh, the water's fine. Don't worry about it. Of course they will. They want you in the water. They want you bathing in this stuff. They want you mutating in it. These people care nothing about us, and they get away with murder. And then what they use as their wall is they constantly come out talking about race, gender, all these ridiculous things that pander to weak people who actually care about this nonsense. And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, me too. Oh, yeah, you know, I want, I'm in the LGBT. Oh, that's as long as they're on TV and they're mentioning us, that's all that matters. They could poison us to death and it wouldn't matter because they are pandering to weak people. Otherwise, 100% of the population would go, enough of this crap. It's over. We're not dealing with it. It doesn't have to be violent. Just get out or we'll just, start our own government, right? But obviously that's not going to occur, especially with the mind control they have over the military at this point. I mean, that's one of the reasons they're doing it. They know they've used so many tactics of trauma-based mind control on these people that they're all Manchurian candidates, most of them. Not every single person, but the majority. Now they're training our military to be, in gender neutrality. I mean, these things that are just completely insane. A complete waste of time, a complete waste of taxpayer money. But that's what it's about. It's about weakening our society, weakening our country, and destroying America. That's why I've always felt that America was Mystery Babylon, because we were the great powerhouse. Now we're seeing it starting to crumble. And there's really no turning back, because if you think Trump coming in is going to save the day, he's not. He's going to make it even worse. We're waiting on the cusp for this World War III, which would obviously be just completely planned for our governments to throw us under the bus to bring in this new world order. So divide, conquer, destroy, and now just use chemical warfare on people. Absolutely sickening. I thank you guys for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.